But we will move on to the Springboks.
Yes, the Springboks finished third in the Rugby Championship this year, which would be, that's definitely not where they were planning on doing.
Not where they want to be, no.
There's the added context of, first of all, having to play all their tough games out in Australia, not being able to bring either the Wallabies or the All Blacks into their own home field. Then there's the added context of the Lions Tour, which was their main goal coming into this year, which they did win. And that fantastic performance to round out the season against the All Blacks. There's certainly no cause for panic. They have their number one spot back. Everything has come down a little bit. They are still world champions and still a thoroughly good team.
Yeah.
There's like, reflecting on the season as a whole, there's definitely some lessons there. I mean, they got an awful lot of stick from a game plan point of view from all around. The spotlight was on them
from the Lions Tour. There was whinging coming from all kinds of things about
and then the Kiwis as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it was definitely a funny one. I mean, their defense is excellent, and their
scrum is monstrous. Their line-out maul is excellent too.
Yeah, indeed, and their kicking game, which was fabulous in the last game as well. I think there was that open question going into this week of whether the Ninab or Erasmus game plan was a winning one. Mostly because, and it's still a point of concern for them, is this that they don't make dominance count on the scoreboard as much as say an All Blacks team do, and they win games particularly against the All Blacks, but also you'll see it against clinical sides. You might even see it against Wales this autumn.
Yeah.
Like, they can dominate a game and not make it count, and then all of a sudden teams will strike on them, and they'll find themselves in a situation they shouldn't be in. They don't make it count enough on the scoreboard. And then there was that open question of, like, are they just making it too hard on themselves, trying to defend the living life out of teams, kicking everything away? And I think the answer was kind of sort of yes, sort of no. And I think we saw this week what the Bok team can be. We got it's not a massive change. You win the game with your defense, you win the game with your set piece, and you win the game with your kicking game. But you make all of that possible by adding a little thing or two on offense. And we got a good flavour of what this offense can be, and a reminder of it too. I remember that England tour back in 2018. When Razzie first came in.
He was driving in a ferocious pace, and it was high scoring games.
Exactly right. It's Faf. It all is off Faf. It's like Villaroo occasionally comes in a first receiver, or Pollard does when they need to get a little wider, but Faf runs this offense, and the way that it works from scrum half is because he has that unique, and it's not quite the same style as Aaron Smith, but it's the same kind of threat, only he actually picks the ball up and takes it to the line. He's an option himself.
He does more what Will Genia used to do, challenge and fix the line first and find runners, but he has runners.
When he's dialed into that game, he has a wonderful wide pass on him, and you saw that last week where basically the Bok offense is not complicated. You want one of your big men hitting a hard line and finding a favourable contact and crashing through, and then clearing that ruck and going and doing the same thing again. But the reason that it works and it's not telegraphed is because Faf can pick from 2 or 3 different options.
Yeah,
and
you saw that spread it right wide. Yeah. Like Pollard can line out nearly half a pitch away, and he will find it. He's got the width and the speed on his pass to do that. So
exactly right. So they're still very much the same team, but if they add just an offensive dimension, just to open up the field a little bit, to make the kicking smarter than it has been,
and that 50-22 which they found in the last game, that should be such a weapon for them. You think we saw in Bledisloe, it was bigged up in terms of the 50-22, and the teams didn't really go to it because those aren't really, talking about team identities, those aren't really the main teams you'd associate with it. Whereas with the Springboks and their penchant for mauling, their love of an aggressive offensive maul from inside the 22, you think like 50-22s are a serious in to add to this team, and without changing too much about the game plan. And just to go back on your point about are they making it too hard for themselves, I would say that it's making it hard, caving to pressure in what they were doing in Coetzee and trying to create a more kind of basketball razzle-dazzle offense out of them. They're traditionally not as good at that as the All Blacks. And the same criticism we were having of the All Blacks last year or in years gone by, going you look a little like a Northern Hemisphere team, but when you play this way, you're probably not the best team in the world. If you're going to play up the jumper rugby, you're probably behind England and Ireland and the Springboks. But if you play All Black rugby, you're ahead of all of those guys. Yeah. Whereas the Springboks are the inverse. If you're going to try and play basketball or barbarian style, you're going to look a little clunky and guys are going to laugh at you. They did a little bit of that in those Wallabies games where they were trying to spread the ball.
That's right, yeah.
Their passing was a bit not sharp, and you had gruff Aussies poking fun at them for not being clinical and not being able to pass. But what they can do when they're dialed in, like the way you saw last week, is just dominate a game in the collision zone and on the gain line. Like, make it a very simple game. Bludgeoning. Some would argue ugly. Some would argue, they need to change the laws. But no, it's just the identity of this team, and it's playing to their literal strengths, which are... They are the most physical side in world rugby. Everyone knows it. It's always the conversation when you're facing the Springboks is be ready for that physicality. Don't be shocked by it.
No, indeed. And their breakdown acumen, they're just their whole defence, it's evolved even more than the wonderful sort of led shape of 2018 and early 2019. Like, it's not as make or break as it used to be. There's a lot more subtlety to it, and there's a lot more breakdown work in it. Which is like it's just affecting them so many turnovers, and they're still not conceding that many tries as a defense. One or a max of two every game, and they usually come off sloppy plays from the restart or something like that, and that's definitely a work on for them. But their multi-phase defense is still absolutely stellar,
the best in the world.
The best in the world, no question about it. And I thought very encouraging performances towards the tail end of the season by Etzebeth, who's going to be an absolutely massive leader for them.
And probably haven't Vermeulen back from injury. He missed the Lions tour pretty much entirely, but he saved his best for last in that last game, showing what an asset he still is. They have serious stocks. Guys like Vincent Koch, who just don't get highlighted because he ends up coming off the bench, but he's such a good player, and he has been for years. And it's just they are spoiled for choice in that front row, particularly as they were going into the World Cup. They remain the most rich and most deep at prop in terms of just having no fears of guys like Axon Shea can go out and Yakanya can go out. You have Marks can come off the bench. You can start Marks and launch Bongi off the bench.
Yeah, they've really found out. I mean, that bomb squad front row, which is now just a unit really of Kitsoff, Marks and Koch or Malherbe, but actually no, Koch in particular off the bench. That has been such an effective unit for them, and they brought them on early deliberately this time to get the third quarter bounce that they richly deserved. And listen, you're going to add potentially Peter Steff back into this mix. Orgy Snyman played his first game for Munster, and then Cheslin Colby as well. There's a few difference makers that could come in and add a few dimensions to them. But no, they don't need to rewrite the script. This game plan is still fundamentally about the defense and the set piece and the kicking game,
and just playing to their strengths. But
they always have found a way to take tries, and defensive tries are going to be in their element. And crazy kick return tries as well, and ball tries. But to add an element of red zone efficiency to that, and a red zone score with Mapimpi's try and Faf's tempo, just brings another dimension to things and is encouraging for them going forward. So no, I think, listen, as much as the rocky road of those Wallaby games happened, given the issues that they've had with their squad and their long haul breaks, I think they'll be really, really pleased actually with that win. They're not gone 0-4. No. They've and let's face it, in 2 weeks they've dominated the All Blacks. They were very, very they would have been gutted last week not to get the win there. They completely fronted up and outplayed them up front, but to do that 2 weeks in a row, and the All Blacks,
at the end of what we were saying, a long season on the road, and in the Wallabies, they are top quality, and are they still top dogs? Still debatable. They are technically on the rankings, I'm sure, as we were saying. A few Kiwis will gripe, but
I think they just about are. I think so. To be honest, on the evidence, the last 2 weeks,
they won the World Cup and they won the Lions.
Yeah, and the All Blacks, they did win last week, but they were beaten in large periods of it, and they didn't have any control over those games, and that's a work on for them. But no, the Springboks to me feel like they're further in their evolution, and they are probably firmly the top side, and they have an interesting dilemma themselves going into this spring. I mean, they've been talking that they need to break the bio bubble if they're going to get this squad to tour at all into November. I think Razzie's seriously considering pulling the plug again, like he did last year with the Tri-Nations, which was just came too early for them. And he was, it's funny reflecting on that decision, whether he was right or wrong. I'm sure given how this year has gone, he'd say fine. You could argue that given how that Tri-Nations went, that actually it might have played well into their hands if they'd gone. Yeah,
the big defensive wins.
Everyone trying to out defend each other and out scrummage each other. It might have just played right into their hands. But they decided not to do that, and then hence they've came back this year, as every team did after COVID. You have to remember, came back leaning a little more on defence than they usually would have. True. And perhaps that was taken to the nth degree by this Bok team. But now they've added that extra dimension to them. They settled in, and do they want to go down north again? I think they might have a point to prove. I would certainly not want to see it. But there's one of three ways it goes. They could pull the plug on it if they have to do another biosecure bubble and the players just don't have it in them. They want to go home to their families. No one would disregard them for pulling the plug on it. The other option that they have is to maybe give the squad players a bit more of a chance, which I know they've done
development
before.
Squad go north.
But then, do you want to sacrifice your world ranking just to give Elton and Herschel more minutes? I don't know.
I don't know how. It depends what they weigh up as important. Like, it is important to get squad minutes in there, and if you're going to be trusting these guys, Willems, guys like that who don't get in at all as often as they ought to. You could send them north and give them a go. Like, that's South Africa A game would remind you that, like, there's
that was
depth
kind of
there
South
as
Africa.
well.
That was the main South Africa.
But they do have depth themselves, and they do have European based players who aren't involved in the squad as well. Like, they can field many teams. So I think they probably will complete the fixtures just because money will dictate and economics will dictate. But whether we'll see,
they maybe give a few guys a rest.
Whether we'll see the likes of Am, who's played all the minutes.
I think Lou Diager is one who seems to have emptied himself this year.
He does.
But maybe it's a chance to get the likes of Snyman back in there.
Yeah, Snyman is back. He'll be encouraging for them. He could definitely do a tour. He could use some Springbok juju for himself. He's been missing out on all this. But even guys like Marvin Orey, who are in the squad, who don't have as much minutes, there's potential for that. But like they are spoiled for choice because they have loads and loads of depth. We've said it before, like European rugby, domestic European rugby, Top Couture's United Rugby Championship now, which does have Springbok teams, but also has Springbok squad players in all the Welsh teams and in all the Scottish teams, and like they're just it's same in the Premiership. There's always, like, you look at the Sale Sharks are a de facto SAFA team in there. There's a lot of top quality professional rugby players who just sprawl out from South Africa. So, like, there's no fear for them as far as depth. They are world champions. They are Lions Tour champions. Granted, they lost 3 on the bounce and they ended up third in this particular rugby championship. It didn't work out for them.
Yeah,
but
they still beat the mighty All Blacks. Yeah, they'll be a little shocked by Samu Karevi and what he did to their defence, really, and that whole Wallabies team. And it's a to be continued for them.
Yeah.
But no, I think overall, I think they're delighted. I think for all of the criticism that came their way, their game plan is working.
Yeah.
And listen, all it takes is a couple of adjustments, minor adjustments, to flip the script on that and create one of the most objectively entertaining games ever, and still have them come out the right side of it. I think they'll be pretty pleased going into next season, and I think they are still top dogs for now.
That's it. Yeah, they managed to arrest a little bit of momentum back to carry north with them, for sure.
Thank you for watching the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you enjoyed that video, please be sure to like and share with your friends. And if you'd like to hear more of what we have to say, please be sure to subscribe and click that bell so you get notified when we upload our videos. And please join the comment section as well. We like to get a fun conversation going here.